What's up, guys? This is Yasin. So I actually felt like it would be a great opportunity for me to revisit all the best decks to play this format post the new Blue Eye Structure deck, just because, you know, it's a new product. Obviously, it's gonna have an impact on the metagame and how people will choose which decks to play, because it's a very good deck and a very interesting deck. And obviously, I made a spreadsheet on it, which I do plan on promoting in a couple of seconds. But yeah, obviously, Dinkabui also winning the YCS with Purifier King is definitely something also worth noting, because that will also have an impact on the decks that people choose to play. Yeah, anyways, before we go any further, you already know the drill. Smash the like and subscribe button, that's a given. And also watch this video until the end. And again, huge exciting news to share with you, just in case you've never heard about them before. So I am proud to announce that after all these years, I have finally created my own website dedicated to selling all kinds of products and services, including spreadsheets and coaching sessions, and I do plan on adding some merch in the near future. Most importantly though, the long-awaited Blue Eye Spreadsheet is finally here, and for only $25 US, you can become the next Dragon Master. This time though, the spreadsheet comes with a whopping 75 combos, including uninterrupted lines and through handshots including Nibiru, Bestials, Drool, Furos, Veiler, etc. The combos also cover pretty much every build that you can think of, so regardless of the direction that you choose to go for, there is something for you. I'm not gonna spoil too much, but I have managed to cook up some combos that can make 12 disruptions if they go through, and still put 10 disruptions through Nibiru. I also cover my own personal deck list alongside the explanation behind each and every single card and ratio that I play, so that you can understand the deck even if you've never played it before. There are tons of other benefits associated behind the spreadsheet, including access to a Discord community where I plan on hosting classrooms to help everyone master the deck efficiently. So if you're interested in the spreadsheet, you can buy it directly on my website using a credit card or PayPal. The link will be at the very top of the description box below. Anyways, with that said, let's get on with the video. Alright, that was absolutely beautiful, and again, I really recommend checking out my website as well as the spreadsheets that I offer. The link will be at the very top of the description box below. But yeah, anyways, let's get right into it. So we got 5 categories: the big boys, the decks that could win a YCS, the ones that have long-term potential but not necessarily great right now, the ones that are kind of mediocre, and Bernard. Alright, so the first one is Voice's Voice, long-term potential, because it's not bad, but it's too slow, right? It's the kind of deck that is really good in a format where people play a huge amount of handshots, but not like actual powerful decks, which is, yeah, no, it's not really the case right now. People play very powerful decks, and also this deck kind of loses to Bestials a little bit, not too much, but still a little bit. So yeah, I'm not a super big fan of how Voice's Voice is positioned at the current moment, but that doesn't mean that it's garbage. Rika is a deck that obviously could win a YCS, but only in Europe. So that's the caveat. In any other continent in the world, nah. Yeah, it goes there, probably. Okay, Unchained. Long-term potential, just because it's another Fiend deck. Obviously, it benefits off of, like, Abaaku. If Unchained Soul of Sharvara can go back to 3, that would be really good, but the current moment, not the best. Mermail, that's probably, in my opinion, in the top 5 best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. And the reason for that is because it is a very proactive deck when it goes first. It's super consistent, super explosive. And except if you have like Droll or like a Chubby, it's pretty, or Shifter, obviously, it's pretty impossible to stop this deck. It doesn't lose to Bestials, which is one of the reasons why Fire King is also a deck that, you know, Dinkabui considered. But yeah, this is kind of like the equivalent, but obviously more explosive. And yeah, this deck is really good. Very, very good. Really recommend. The end boards are completely cracked. It's Double Toad and Moulin Glacia if you play it. Or you can, like, Water Barrier Statue. You can get the setup with, like, a Bishrine so that you can discard the Heavy Infantry on the opponent's turn, destroy a card. Or also discard, like, the Abyss Gun so that you can revive back Passadra, the Rumbling Atlantean, and then bounce back a card. That's also good. And also you can Foolish Heavy Infantry to, like, bounce back and destroy a card. That's even better. But yeah, Mermail, really insane deck, and very good going second as well, because Passadra, the Rumbling Atlantean, that is a board breaker and a half, and also a starter going second. Okay, Ritual Beast, yeah, this deck really suffers from like collateral damage, because obviously Malice is a thing, and this deck has like all the flaws from Malice, but even more because it also loses to Pearlia as like an added bonus. It loses to every single chummy that you can think of. It's really, really sad. So yeah, Ritual Beast is extremely poorly situated right now. But like I said, it is still a good deck, so if you don't draw the good cards against Ritual Beast, you are screwed, and it can still play Shifter better than anyone else. White Forest is a very good deck, but it's definitely worse than Mermail, just because it has more weaknesses. Like, this time you also kind of lose to Bestials. You do lose to, like, I don't know, just more handshots. Like, sometimes one Veiler can be, like, a turn skip against you, one Ash can be a turn skip, whereas, like, against Mermail, Valor and Ash do literally nothing. Like, Neptibus single-handedly plays through a hand trap because it dumps for cost. That's such a stupid mechanic. It makes no sense. But yeah, White Forest, that is not the case, so, yeah, that's a little unfortunate. Malice is definitely among the big boys because, you know, obviously the ceiling level of this deck is insanity. The only issue that this deck has is that I mean, first of all, going second, it's not really good. But also, it really passes turn to, like, Artifact Lancia, and the Molchamis, well, except Pearlia, are extremely good against this deck, unfortunately. So yeah, it's usually under a lot of pressure, like, post-game 1, but in game 1, it is the best deck of the format. It's actually better than Raziel on game 1. Okay, Chimera Azamina or something. This deck is really good, but I don't really know much about it, so I can't really say too much here. Sword Soul Tenyi, it's actually not too bad. I've made a few videos on it, but I think it's, like, slightly worse than Ritual Beast as a Protoss deck, and just as a deck overall, I think it's a little too fair, but obviously if you can make it work, then good for you. Obviously, I wouldn't really be shocked if someone could turn Tenyi Sword Soul into a deck that could randomly, you know, do very well at YCS. Maybe not win the YCS, but go very far with it. That definitely could make sense. Goblin Biker, that's an okay-ish deck, but every now and then you're gonna draw like 5 Goblin Biker monsters in your hand, and then you go normal summon the first one, you get Valored, and then you look at all of your monsters that can only be summoned by detaching an Xyz material from a monster on the field. You're going first, there's no Xyz monsters, and you pass turn. So unless you're playing against like Raziel or an Xyz-based strategy, this deck is horrendous. Very, very bad. But it does have long-term potential, because if at any moment we get just another rank 4 or like Xyz-based strategy, this deck could be a great counter to it. Like, if it's an Xyz format, this deck could be like top tier. Raziel Mitsurugi for sure among the big boys, but I don't really know where to position it exactly, just because it sees drastically less play than Raziel Fiendsmith, Pure Raziel, and Malice. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad deck. I think it's an extremely good deck, and Triff made that very clear with every single... I think he played a lot of tournaments with Raziel Mitsurugi, but also I think he made a lot of videos on it, so... yeah, really good deck for sure, but I don't really know much about it. I've only played against the deck, and I've played with the deck a few times, but I'm just not a big fan of the deck myself. It's not the kind of deck that I could ever see myself playing, but the Mitsurugi deck could see like a second wave of support and Alliance Insight, and that could be extremely broken. Okay, Mimigul, I was gonna see Memento. This is actually a good deck. Maybe it's gonna be like somewhere here-ish, or here. It's actually not too bad, because maybe it's actually going to be here, honestly. Because going second, I mean, you still play a lot of hand traps, you can play Shifter, yeah, so that's cool. You can abuse the absolute crap of Thrust and the Talent when you're going first. That's one of the coolest things about it. And also Kashtira Unicorn in this deck is proactive, because obviously you're forcing your opponent to use monster effects. So you can get knowledge on turn 1, you can make a board that better suits like the situation that you're facing. That's, like I said, really cool. So just overall, it's a deck with a lot of options. It's very toolboxy, and I usually love decks that are like that. So Mimigul, I think in the right hands, it can do wonders. And like I said, I think it's much better than people give it credit for. Okay, Fire King, Pure Fire King. Yeah, this deck obviously has to be in the section of could win a YCS, but only in Europe, only by Din Kabui. These two decks, I swear to God, are in the exact same boat, just because I can't imagine any other human being doing this well with Pure Fire King. It's completely ridiculous to think that a deck like this managed to do this well, but it is kind of coherent, because at the end of the day, Din Kabui played like, I think 17 hand traps in his deck. He played Extravagance. He played just a very, you know, logical deck, and I can really respect that. And also his strategy against Raziel was definitely nice, but against Malice, obviously it's more RNG, and I don't think he had enough cards for Malice. He only had Artifact Lancia and Chaos Hunter, no Molchaminialis if I recall correctly. So I would try to max out the hate that I have against Malice, because there is no skill that allows you to beat this deck. It's really just RNG. Like, do you draw the good cards against them? Yes, okay, no, okay, well, you lose. That's about it, because the end board is like mega unbreakable. Like, don't even think about it. So yeah, Fire King, I think, is just an okay-ish deck, obviously, but like I said again, in the hands of Din Kabui the GOAT, the deck goes from okay to could win a YCS. Again, Censure on this deck sucks. There's no appeal to playing that deck. The only reason why you were playing this deck in the first place was because it could play a lot of hand traps in a format where most decks weren't playing that many hand traps. I mean, they were still playing a lot, obviously. Like, 15 is huge, but that deck could play like 19 hand traps or something ridiculous. But now it's actually less impressive than before, because now there's Pure Raziel and Malice that can also play a huge amount of hand traps. So who cares about Centurion being able to do that? It really is completely irrelevant. The hero deck is not too bad. I'm probably gonna place it here-ish because I think it's a really complicated deck to play, and I can't be arsed. I don't want to learn the deck. I don't really care about the deck. Centurion, even if you're a good player, you cannot make it work. Definitely not. Just because this deck is way too fragile and the engine is like super weak. Okay, Gladiator Beast, this deck is absolute horrendous. Regardless of how good you are, you can't make it work because there's not enough consistency cards in the deck, not enough room for starters. Playstyle is way too slow. Bearer Statue Stun, or just Stun in general, with like Fossil Dyna and stuff like that. This deck is super cancer. It got top 16, I believe, at the YCS that happened at the exact same time as Birmingham. That was the remote duel in Latin America. And yeah, this deck is not cool. I don't like it at all. But obviously, if people don't have the outs to your Fossil Dyna, then it is what it is. Obviously, you're setting like 4 or 5 back row. And whenever you're screwed and you're on top deck mode, what a coincidence! Activate Card of Demise, draw 3. I keep drawing into everything that I need. Oh, yeah, beautiful. So yeah, this is exactly how this deck beats you. It just sags the shit out of you every single time. Blue Eyes, this is definitely among the big boys, absolutely. And the reason for that is because this deck is super consistent, right? You can play so many nice starters in the deck. You can play Barrel, Load, Sage, Wishes, Maiden, Piri, Race Map, Jack of the Trade or something, Jack in the Hand, Jack of the Trades, gee, I'm so stupid. A lot of the other things, Where Art Thou? You can play some other engines in the deck. There's just so many things that you can explore with Blue Eyes. And also, my spreadsheet covers literally every option out there, so I really recommend checking it out. Again, the spreadsheet can be found on my website, and you can find it at the very top of the description box below. But yeah, Blue Eyes is an incredible deck, for sure recommend it. Shark, nah, it's probably just there. It's a very basic deck. It doesn't really do a lot of things. It's good at summoning toads and stuff like that, which Mermail is also good at, but it's just a better deck than Shark. Like, let's just be real. It's more complex. This is like a very good deck for beginners, but it's not like an insane deck. As a matter of fact, I'm actually gonna have to put it there, unfortunately, for now. But maybe the new support is gonna improve the deck significantly. Melodious is fine. It's not a bad deck. Nah, yeah, it's alright. Yeah, there's a decent amount of starters in the deck. There's like 9 1-card starters, and then you got a bunch of like combinations of 2 cards that can work. So that's cool, but the deck just doesn't do enough. It loses to like Board Breakers really hard. I mean, Droplet and Dark Ruler. And yeah, it just, nah, it needs a little bit of something for the deck to really feel broken. But as it currently stands, I'm just not a super big fan of Melodious. Like, if you draw a hand of like 5 Melodious cards, you're barely doing any more than if you draw a hand of like 1 Melodious card. Yeah, so if you weren't locked under like Melodious onlys in this deck, yo, it would be so freaking broken. Anyways, the Fiendsmith deck, not really just the Fiendsmith engine, but the Fiendsmith, like pure Fiendsmith or like Fiendsmith Bestial or something. This is very good, but I don't know if I would actually place it in big boys just because it has less appeal than any of the other decks. Maybe it's gonna have to be downgraded over here. Maybe. I think Mermail is still a deck that I'm more scared of than like this, because this is just like, okay, it does the exact same thing every single time. I know exactly how to stop it. It's kind of predictable. Whereas Mermail, I have no idea what's in their hand. Like, I don't know if I should still imprint the Neptibus because they might not have, you know, something relevant to do after that. It also depends on what they sent. I don't know. This deck can like really sag the shit out of you super quickly, but like the Fiendsmith Bestial deck, obviously if you have your hand traps, it's usually more autopilot on how you should be using them. Sky Striker, yeah, very mediocre deck unless your name is Ryan Yu. Very similar as like these two decks again that can only be played by certain kinds of human beings. Primite Fiendsmith, very similar, but actually worse, I think. So I'm probably gonna have to put it there just because, yeah, sure, like you also get to play a lot of Fiendsmith access cards, but you also just play more weird cards for no reason, like Drill Beam. That card is like so much worse now if you're playing this deck, just because the barrel, it only recurs itself back on your standby phase now, whereas the mistranslation would have been completely unfair. This deck went from like here to here like real quick. Alright, Metamorph. Yeah, this is actually worse than Fossil Dyna. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's so freaking bad. Zero potential at all. Maybe as like a small engine in like some decks, but Oh, the cope is real. The cope is so real with that deck. Oh my god, it's so not scary to play. I can play any deck and destroy the shit out of this deck in like 2 seconds. Oh, it's so bad. So the amount of bricks too that you gotta play, unbelievable. And also, like, you're basically never seeing the good cards in your deck. The ratio of good to bad cards, oh, it's horrendous. Okay, purely, yeah, it's just okay. Yeah, it's maybe there, here. Yeah, I don't know. Don't really care too much. Nobody plays this deck. Literally nobody. Material Reactor, very similar to like Goblin Biker in the sense that where you play a lot of level 3 monsters, you make some rank 3s, you play a decent amount of hand shafts, and nobody really knows what you're doing. So that's cool. Obviously it has long-term potential, but I can't really imagine winning a YCS. That would really make any sense. Exodia, this is the worst version of Tenpai Dragon. Oh, speaking of which, actually, oh no, the Tenpai Dragon is here. Yeah, okay, this deck has very little long-term potential. Let's just be honest, so obviously it's gonna have to be at the very bottom. My issue with Exodia is that this deck is only like scary if you're like not really familiar with what the cards do. But if you know exactly how to stop this deck just never beats you. Like literally never. I played against this deck a few times and I don't even think I ever lost a duel to it. It's unless like your deck randomly has a bad matchup against it, usually it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Like even if you get shifted by this deck, if you have a Bestial, then you're not dying because you can just let everything resolve and then they go Exodia attack for 8k and then they extend the handshake and you're like, nah, summon a Bestial monster, survive, and then you don't kill me and then I kill you. Yeah. Anyways, Spirit, no, sorry, Ubel in general, it's not bad. It's actually kind of not bad just because the ceiling level is high, but the deck loses to like infinite hand traps. So it's not like the best meta call out there, but again, the ceiling level is very high, so gotta put some respect on it. I think I might have been over-exaggerating with Mimigul being over here and Melodious being down here, so I'm actually gonna have to upgrade Melodious. It's not that bad. Maybe this should also be upgraded. I don't freaking know. And this should be done. I don't even know what I'm doing at this point, but whatever. This should be good enough, huh? Again, if you're not satisfied with anything that I do, you are more than welcome to complain to my manager. Let's just not even pretend like Argostar should have been in here because the deck is Cheeks. Memento is also an extremely good deck. Very debatable whether it's here or here. Or here even, yeah, but I think Memento, actually, Memento, yeah, it's just, I don't know why I, like, was confusing Memento and Mermail. They both start with ME. This deck is cracked, super consistent, super powerful, super resilient. It's actually kind of insane. It doesn't really lose to Bestials too much because a Chiron can just, like, get back your resources from the banish, so you don't really feel like there's one card that just, like, destroys you completely, but obviously Shifter is very, very painful. Yeah, so that's my issue with this deck, unfortunately. Crystron. Oh, this deck is nice. Okay, so objectively speaking, Crystron is somewhere here. I'm just trying to figure out it. Yeah, it should be there. It should be there. I think White Forest is obviously going to still see a little bit more play. But I think what's really good about Crystron is that it can play a decent amount of non-engine. It's naturally good going first and second because it has some nice lines. It depends obviously on the deck that you're facing, but this deck is very technical. But even though a lot of people don't necessarily see it, this deck loses to Lancia significantly less than Malice. So at my past regionals, I mean last weekend, hold on a second, or Thursday, that's fine. Yeah, last weekend, I played 7 rounds and I got Lancia 10 times, and I still managed to get top 8. Whereas if I played Malice and I got Lancia 10 times in 7 rounds, I would be like, probably like X5. Yeah, I wouldn't have done really well, just because this deck, again, when you draw a handful of Malice cards and you get Lancia, you pass turn. But Crystron, when you draw a handful of Crystron cards and you get Lancia, you make like 3 disruptions. It's really not too bad. So yeah, this deck, I think if you're well prepared, if you know what you're doing, it's really good. And again, there's a really good reason why I've been promoting this deck and I've been playing it myself. Obviously, it's because I believe in it. I wouldn't really promote a deck like crazy if I think it was garbage. So yeah, Crystron, yeah, very, very good deck. Even right now, even despite like everything that just keeps being injected into the game, like Pure Fire King and Blue Eyes, that, you know, I guess, like, I mean, this deck kind of already existed before, but it wasn't really seeing any play, and Blue Eyes is like a brand new deck, I guess you can say. Okay, the Arcana Force, out of all the bad decks, it's probably one of the better ones. Raziel decks in general, so pure Raziel, Raziel Fiendsmith, obviously it's the best deck. There's nothing I can really say about this anymore. So yeah, obviously gonna be number 1. And then Resonator, it's probably here. It's not super good. I don't really see the edge other than using like the Fiend monster to like send Blackout Laughs, which is a really good card, and then you still make a board. But like beating Nibiru in this deck is really tricky. It's like you have to like make a half board and then say end of main phase, and then you get nibbed and then you recover, because you don't really make negates in this deck. So that's what really pisses me off. It's kind of like in the mid-range version of Blue Eyes, that's how you beat Nibiru, but in the combo version of Blue Eyes, there's like a lot of ways to beat Nibiru. Like you can play greedy, quote unquote, and then still beat Nibiru, because you can get like Hieratic Seal that can summon a monster from the deck and then you keep playing. Or there's other versions of Blue Eyes that can also beat Nibiru in other ways. And I have a bunch of different ideas in my head. Obviously, I can't really sit in this video, but check out my spreadsheet. Anyways, the last deck is Stand by Dragon, which is also insanely good. It's probably going to be over here. So in the top 7-ish decks, maybe? Top 10? Something like that. So yeah, 4, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that's the top 10. Crystron at the very bottom, but that's still really good. That's still in the top 10 best decks. And again, I'm not capping. Like, I really do believe that this is probably as accurate as it gets, objectively speaking. Fire King probably should not be here, but just because Din Kabui managed to do so well with it, I'm gonna keep it there for the memes. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this best decks video. I really hope that you guys were able to enjoy and learn a thing or two. And if you did, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.